Well, the Iowa caucuses are less than a month away, which means the 2020 presidential contest is about to begin. But how important is Iowa this year? A piece in Politico this week suggests that it matters less, citing fewer candidate days on the ground this year. We're joined now by someone on the ground. Shane Vanderhart is the editor-in-chief of Caffeinated Thoughts, a conservative Christian news and culture website based in Iowa. Shane, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Heather.
I want to ask you about that Politico piece, but first off, we have seen Iran dominate the headlines this week. Is that something that Iowans are following closely and something that you think the candidates are talking about on the ground or will be talking about in the coming weeks?
Oh, certainly, especially when we're anticipating, what's going to happen moving forward after the initial back and forth between the United States targeting General Soleimani and then the missile attack that Iran launched. So, we've been talking about this. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference when it comes to the Iowa caucus, because I think the Democratic candidates are saying much of the same thing, attacking President Trump on launching this attack without notifying Congress. Republicans are pretty supportive of President Trump here in Iowa, I believe. Even though I think while they were supportive of this particular targeting of General Soleimani, we don't necessarily want to see an all-out ground war either. So it's just what'll happen going forward will determine how much of an issue it's going to be among Iowans as we approach not just the Iowa caucus, but the general election in November.
Right. I think we're all breathing a sigh of relief right now, but still cautious. I wanted to ask you about that Politico piece and just the importance of Iowa in this year's presidential race. Of course, you're biased. You're an Iowan. Yeah. You're on the ground there. But from your vantage point, what are you seeing? Are the Democratic presidential candidates spending less time in Iowa than in previous years?
I think that's accurate. I mean, you can't really deny they're counting up actual events and how many times they're coming out, and it doesn't seem like that because there are just so many Democratic candidates. So it seems like we always have somebody here in the state. But the caucus is a little bit later than it's been in the past, and I think that's making a difference. You got Super Tuesday looming a month out from I believe a month out from the Iowa caucus, and that's going to make up about 60% of the delegates. You have had some complaints. Julian Castro, he's the one that first launched the complaint about Iowa being too white and not diverse enough. So you probably have that at play. But what your viewers need to understand is that Iowa may not necessarily pick the party nominee, even though we have, in certain years. What Iowa's useful for is winnowing down the field. We started this particular process cycle with I believe over 20 candidates, and now just haven't winnowed down enough. But basically we're looking at about 3, maybe 4 tickets out of Iowa. You generally don't see anybody that places 5th or lower do well moving forward.
You're saying that Iowa does the heavy lifting, in essence. I want to ask you something about your predictions for this political year. You're predicting that Pete Buttigieg will win the Iowa caucus in a close race, that we'll also see Amy Klobuchar break into the top 4. Tell us what your thinking is on that.
Well, I think Buttigieg has one of the strongest organizations in Iowa. He has over 100 staff in Iowa, at least earlier in the cycle he did. I'm sure he's moving some of those out to New Hampshire and Nevada and other places as well. He's attracted a lot of attention. He's had several events with over 1,000 people in places like Indianola and Decorah, not major cities. And then with polling, you've seen him at the top, even though right now we got a close 3-way race. The last poll, actually, CBS YouGov had the Iowa caucus at a 3-way tie, 23% between Buttigieg, Bernie Sanders, and Joe Biden. So I think it's still, I would say, as far as organization, I think it tips towards Buttigieg at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if Biden snuck in. I think Sanders, I believe Sanders has a cap in Iowa. I haven't seen him raise much further beyond the 23% he's polling at. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Amy Klobuchar. She's got an all-in strategy in Iowa, Iowa or bust. If she doesn't at least hit the top four, she's done. So, with her rise, and I think Elizabeth Warren declining a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised to see her trade places with Elizabeth Warren and come out of Iowa in fourth place at least.
All right, a lot to watch in the Democratic field, and we've just got a couple seconds here, but just briefly, you think that Iowa will vote to reelect the president. Why is he so popular in Iowa, in your view?
Well, I think Iowans see that he's kept his promises, and that's big. I think the economy's doing well. We see a low unemployment rate as well, and you rarely see Iowa not back an incumbent president when the economy is doing well. So I'd be very surprised. And then Iowa's also, I think, trending red too. We're still considered a swing state, but the last few elections they've tilted towards Republicans. So I would be shocked if we suddenly had a flip.
All right, Shane Vanderhart with Caffeinated Thoughts. Thanks so much for your time.